All right, John Biondolillo this time around on Aired Out. Top of the morning to you, everybody. We hope you're doing well. A little slick out there, depending on where you are. Some of the higher elevations got significantly more than the valleys. Definitely true for Berry City, but still, nonetheless, go easy this morning. Take your time getting to where you need to be. Great pleasure to bring this guy on the air with us right now. John Biondolillo, good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning, JD. Nice to be here.
So happy. We've been talking about this, it seems like, for 15 years, having you on the air. First off, thank you, William Ravies, for your presenting sponsorship, exclusive presenting sponsorship as our real estate biz that's attached to us right here. In the Granite City. We are honored. Did you run, walk, or drive to get here?
I walked. I'm only a block away. So.
Yeah. No. So, and I assumed so. But then I was thinking, you just had a knee replacement.
I did. Yeah.
How's that going?
It's going great. Really, I should have done it sooner. I suffered for too long.
So that's funny because I need two new shoulders, and I have people telling me that my biggest regret will be, once they're done, that I didn't have them done sooner.
Yes, everyone said that to me too, and you don't really believe them until you go through it and do it, and then you're like, yeah, I shouldn't have suffered so long.
So walking, not that big of a deal now. Is it easier now, or are you still kind of?
No, it's a lot easier.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You gonna have the other one done too?
The other one's good, right? And knock on wood. The other one's okay. So
all right,
we'll see. All those years of walking on the golf course and carrying my bag on my right side, I guess. I don't know.
So you got some titanium in you now.
I do. Yeah, I set off the metal detectors at the airport.
I love it. We're going to talk about real estate here, obviously, and we're going to talk about what's going on in Washington County and the, for lack of a better term, the fear factor of what's going on with the market. But first, let's get to know you a little bit. I just have to ask, where is this? What is this last name? This is such a long, interesting last name. What is that?
Biondolillo. It's Italian.
Biondolillo. Italian.
Yeah.
All right. That's it.
That's all there is to it. I mean, I'm what am I? Third generation, fourth generation.
Yeah.
American. My great grandparents came over on the boat from Italy, and I think it was 1903, and they met on the boat as teenagers and got married after that. And
are you serious?
Yeah, that's a true story.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I love that.
It is a great story.
Wow. You got mom's pasta sauce recipe?
Well, I do. I can't honestly say I've never made it, but
okay.
I have advice on how to do it, but I've never run it.
But you'd never share all of the ingredients.
No, it's a secret sauce. Yeah. Marcia knows how to do it though. That's all that matters.
Does she really?
Oh yeah.
Just 100% Italian.
Yeah.
So where did you grow up?
Grew up in near Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
So go Buffalo Bills.
Yes, I saw that you were a Buffalo fan, and that I think you went to. Did you go to RIT? Where did you
University
go?
of Rochester.
You went to University of Rochester. That's an area that knows what snow looks like.
Oh yeah, lake effect.
So you grew up there, mom and dad,
Mm-hmm.
and then what? What happened after that?
I started working there, and then moved to Boston when I was, I don't know, 25 or 26, and met Marcia while I was there.
What'd you do in Boston?
Banking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Met Marcia.
Yeah. Met Marcia, and we got engaged and decided we didn't want to raise a family in Boston, so we moved back here. She was from here.
Oh, she was?
Yeah. She grew up in Barrie. Yeah.
So she convinced you to head for the pine trees.
No, actually, I convinced her. She didn't. She, in that mindset of the young person in those days, you got out of Vermont, you stayed out of Vermont. So I liked it here because I grew up in Western New York, which is very rural in a lot of respects, and Vermont reminded me of it. So I liked it here.
So when did you come up to Vermont? What are we talking here?
95. Yeah.
95.
Yeah, we used to drive up. We'd come up and see her parents. We'd come up and ski or whatever, come up for the weekend. And used to come up 89, and we'd get to exit 6, and I'd start coming down the road, and I could feel all the stress just go away. I
understand.
Wish I could still feel that way because now I get closer to my office and I get a little tight. But
I understand that too. And then what? Then what?
Well, I was in banking for a few years here. The market, it was a terrible real estate market at that point. I was selling all the bank-owned properties over at Northfield Savings Bank, and then I had what I call my midlife crisis and put together a group of investors, and we bought Bolton Valley ski area out of bankruptcy. And so being a golfer, I thought, well, that'd be a great gig because I'll work in the winter. And, I ended up I think the first year I worked like 362 days out of 365. And, really wasn't spending the kind of time with my family that I wanted to.
Interesting.
So we went out first vacation in a few years, right after 9/11. We went out to California, went to Disneyland. We had a ball. I really spent a lot of time with the kids. And on the way back, I said to Marcia, I don't think I want to do this anymore. Is that okay? Yep. So I hadn't been home maybe half a day, and the phone rang, and it was Brad Chenette, who's also from Barrie. He was working for Prudential at the time with Nancy Jenkins, and he's, hey, I heard you're not in the ski business anymore. You want to get into real estate? I was like, sure. So I had already.
I love this story.
Yeah, I'd already taken the test and passed it. So yeah, I got licensed, and I mean, I'd always been in real estate in some form or fashion when I was in banking.
Right.
Mostly commercial, but so yeah, I went up there, and I'd go into the office every day, and of course, tells you how long ago it was. We had these cassette tapes, and I'd listen to the cassette tapes about real estate in the car because it was an hour up and an hour back.
Yeah.
But I was doing all my business down here. So after a year, we decided that I really needed to be down here, and I actually got approached by a local brokerage if I wanted to buy it, and I kind of agonized over it, and I won't get into names, but they didn't have the best reputation. I didn't love their location, and so I'm agonizing over it. And of course, Marcia was much smarter than me. She's like, "What are you, why are you agonizing over this? If you were gonna buy a firm, who would you buy?" And I'm like, "Well, of course, Berg, Carmoli, and Kent." She says, "Well, why don't you go talk to Claire Duke?" So she was in Rotary with me, so I took her aside after Rotary, and she's like, "Yeah, David and I haven't had more than a week's vacation in 15 years. Yeah, we're totally interested." So a few months later, we ended up buying it.
That is such a great story. I love that.
Yeah.
And so many people know you, but might not necessarily know that this is the story that's attached to you. That is so interesting. What service organizations have you been involved with? You said Rotary, but are there others?
Oh, I mean, over the years, Marcia and I have been involved in everything. I mean, we were co-chairs of the March of Dimes one year. I was involved in Barrie Youth Sports big time. I coached baseball and soccer for years. I mean, I loved it so much. Even after my kids were too old to do it, I thought about going back and doing it.
For what schools that you were a coach?
Barrie.
Yeah.
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 Yep. Yep. My daughter was a big athlete, so that was fun to watch her do that. But my wife was on the school board for 11, 12 years. I was on the Barrie Area Development for a dozen years. I was on the zoning board here in Barrie for 10 or 12 years.
DRB?
So, DRB, yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So we've always been really actively involved in the community from day one. So Marcia did Project Graduation a number of years. I mean, it was just that's what it's all about. And that's one of the great things about living here, because you can get, in a bigger city, you just kind of get lost in the shuffle. But
Sure.
here you really can make an impact.
Sure. You speaking of impact, and you say that that's been an objective of yours, is to have a positive impact. I remember hearing the name Biondolillo before I had met you, and I think this was I want to say maybe early days of Froggy 100.9 when I was doing the morning show up there, and connected the face to Bert Carmoli and Kent. And I had met you somewhere. I don't know. Might have been a Rotary breakfast. Might have been. I mean, you've brushed in with Lions Club and VFW and American Legion and so many other. But I met you somewhere, and we chatted briefly, and then I chatted with someone else after I was done saying hello to you. And they said to me, that guy right there, and they pointed, and I'll never forget this, that guy right there, and they pointed at you, bailed me out when I needed some really serious help. I was in a bind, and I can't remember the details of the story, but it was something related to they were either moving, or they had just moved, or they needed a moving truck. And for whatever reason, they couldn't get one. They couldn't find one, and they needed it right now, immediately. And you loaned them your box truck to help them in some bind that they were in. And that's the kind of stuff that, I don't know how many years ago this was. This was probably 15 years ago. Mm. But little tiny little things like that you do in this community, which is one big, giant, dysfunctional family. We never forget little tiny things like that. That's impact right there with a capital I. And that's what we love about you, man. That's your legacy. That's your reputation right there.
Thank you.
Do you remember that?
I mean, we had that box truck for really, almost 20 years. We had it up until recently, and then became too much from a liability standpoint to have it. And I think it was going to cost about $10,000 to get it inspected.
Sure.
But, we let a lot of community organizations use it. We let people, even that they didn't do a transaction with us, if they were in a bind, we let them use it. So.
Vermonters don't forget stuff like that.
Well,
John.
It's a small community.
It is.
Vermont is a small community.
Yes,
everybody seems to know everybody, and so.
Question here in the comments: how many agents do you have, and do you cover the state or just Central Vermont?
Well, that's a good story. So we were Bert Carmoli and Kent. We changed the name to BCK Real Estate because outside of Barry, those three old Barry family names people didn't really necessarily know. So we grew throughout the state. We're now in 3 states. We're in New Hampshire and Maine as well.
Yes.
I think we're bigger in those states than we are here now. So we've got an office in Stowe, Woodstock, and Stratton.
Say it again. Stratton?
Stratton.
God, that's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Stowe, so two resort communities, Woodstock, and then here in Barry.
Woodstock and Barry. Okay. By the way, I was looking at some of those properties on the coast of Maine. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
My God. A glass house. What is it? $2 million? Something like that?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
Wish I'd bought one 30 years ago.
Let's talk about... I've had conversations with Michelle Hebert, who is one of your top brass, frankly. She's such a great member of your team and does such a great job. You talk about somebody who knows what she's talking about, Michelle Hebert.
Well, she's an excellent agent, but she also, she really cares, and she's really good at putting the pieces together for people. And a lot a lot of times, somebody's thinking about listing their house and the agent will just want to run out there and list it. And sometimes she'll say, the best thing for you is to do this, this, and this, and to put it on, at this point in time. So,
right.
We always try and take a long-term approach.
Sure. Anytime I hear some rumblings coming down the national real estate pipeline, I like to either text or call Michelle or email her and throw something at her and see if it sticks to the wall. Is there any truth to this? And is there any legitimacy to this that could be relevant to not only New England, but specifically Vermont, and even more specifically our local county, in counties that make up central Vermont? And she's been pretty consistent with her response to me, which is the national forecast for real estate is not that great, but it doesn't necessarily apply on all levels to what's happening here locally. What say you about this?
Well, I agree. All real estate is local, but the national news, you read online, you hear on TV, they're oftentimes reporting the wrong statistic or interpreting it the wrong way. So you hear, home sales are down, 50%. Yeah. Yep. Nationwide, they are. Here, they're down 30% here in some areas, but they're not. I've been through 4 or 5 bad real estate markets. This one is different.
You survived 2008.
Tell me about it. This one is different because in the past it was a demand problem. There was a lack of demand. People were afraid to buy, or they didn't have a job. Unemployment was 8 or 10%. This time it's a supply issue, and so. People think, interest rates have gone up so much, that's hurting the housing market. No, it's not. It's not hurting it for the reason you think. Yeah, it's knocked out some first-time buyers, but what it's done that's really been bad is that it's done 2 things. One, it's knocked a lot of the first-time buyers out, probably half of them. So now they're going in and they have to rent. So that's causing a huge spike in rental prices, and then. You go beyond that, the people, if you've got a home and you've got a 3% mortgage and you don't really have a compelling reason to move, you're not going to go anywhere.
Exactly.
And, so it's a vicious cycle because you got, the people that are in starter homes, they move up to a more moderate home and then maybe they move up to a bigger home. So it's just it's like a ladder. And without the first-time buyers in there and people afraid to move, the supply is awful. I mean, I could sell almost anything I can get my hands on. But this morning, before I came on here, I looked because I knew you'd ask me.
Yeah.
There were 5 homes in Barre City on the market and 3 in Barre Town. So if you look at in December, there were 7 sales in Barre. There were 12 in Barre Town. So, I mean, at that rate, we don't even have a month's supply of inventory on the market.
How does that compare with past dry spells that you've ridden through?
It's funny because, even if you look at, during COVID, 2021, a lot of agents and the news media are out there saying, there's no listings. That was completely untrue. There were as many listings if you went back and looked at the numbers historically, there were as many properties coming on the market as there ever had been. The difference was they were selling so quickly, it looked like there wasn't any inventory. Now it's a change. Now there is less inventory than there has, but there's still a fair amount. But again, we're talking about the national news. Even some sellers are getting nervous, like, this must be a bad time to sell it. It's not. And in fact, this time of year is the best time of year to sell because most people wait till the spring.
Right.
My house is going to look better and
sure.
So forth. So is everyone else's. But there's so little to buy right now. I mean, even back in 2005 and 6 when the market was hot before, there might be 5, 6 houses in each price range. not just 5 or 6 total in the whole market.
Exactly. You really could sit back and do some shopping.
So somebody wants to sell or needs to sell, it's a great time to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of my questions for you this morning is it a buyer's market, is it a seller's market, or is it neither?
I think there's opportunities for both. And it's not as much of a seller's market as it had been, a lot because of the national news. People are concerned. There aren't as many bidding wars as there had been, but prices are still good. Honestly, I think that inflation, the silver lining for people who own real estate, is inflation is causing the prices to keep going up. So, I think a buyer could buy now with confidence and not think too hard about it. And
you're watching the Feds. You're watching the news and what's happening, and interest rates are fluctuating. They can change by the day?
Yeah.
By the end of the day?
Well, they could. Most banks will adjust them weekly.
Okay.
But they literally can change over. If the Fed does something, they'll change immediately.
I've had conversations with Michelle about, do you get a variable rate or do you get a fixed rate? That's
it. It
the
depends
million-dollar question.
Depends on your situation,
and that's what she says.
And a lot of agents, if they just got in the market in the last couple of years, they don't even know what they've never had to be involved in an adjustable rate mortgage. And if first of all, most of them will fix the rate for 3 to 5 years. Some will go as far as 7 years. So if you're not going to be in your house for more than 5 or 7 years, even if you think you're going to be in it for 10 years, you're probably still ahead of the game going with an adjustable.
Right.
And that's where you need a good mortgage person. And that's whereas a real estate professional, we know who the good mortgage people are, so we can help you with that. Because if you go online,
that's right.
There's some good national lenders, don't get me wrong, but for the most part, they don't know the local market, and all they're going to do is turn around and sell the loan, sell the servicing. Whereas, some of the banks around here, like Northfield Savings Bank or Community National, they might sell the loan, but they're going to keep the servicing. So you're going to be dealing with the same person you're used to dealing with.
In those, you were just talking about the 5 to 7 year spread that you're a homeowner. My God, you're building equity during that time, unlike renting. You're building equity.
I mean, it's even with rates going up, it's generally more expensive to rent than it is to buy. And not everyone should buy. I mean, if you don't want to take care of a home or have the time to take care of a home, then maybe you should rent. But
what do you get people that come into William Ravy's that say, "Oh, geez, I'm nervous. I've never been in here before. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never owned a home before. Well, how's your credit report? Well, I don't even really know. But I'm interested to figure this all out." Do you get people like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, especially being on Main Street, we still get walk-ins, even though a lot of stuff's done online now. But yeah, and and so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to send them to a good loan officer, give them a couple names and let them pick, so they can get pre-qualified, because no one wants to take an offer from a buyer who's not pre-qualified. And there's a big difference between, I should say, pre-approved, because again, you can go online, you can put in, my income's $1 million, I have no debt, and get a letter that you can print out that says you're qualified for a $500,000 mortgage. But a true pre-approval letter, like some of the local banks do, especially, they've verified your credit, they've verified your employment, they've verified your income, and so when they say you're good for $350,000, you can go to the bank with it. No pun intended, but yeah, that's a big difference. And especially for a home seller, if they don't know what they're doing, they're not working with a good agent, they could look at a pre-qualified letter, which really isn't worth the paper it's written on, and be fooled by that.
Interesting. First-time home buyers, are the incentives excellent right now, or how do those incentives compare maybe to past years? And maybe there's really not that much of a difference.
There's not much in the way of incentives these days for first-time buyers. I mean, there's some programs through Vermont Housing Finance Agency and Rural Development. but for the most part, there's not a lot of it. The incentive is to start building ownership and not miss out on prices going up.
If you could speak to the Vermont legislature, what would you say with regard to that? Would you like to see better programs, more programs, maybe some nice additions to current existing programs for first-time home buyers that are much more attractive for the state of Vermont? What would you say to the legislature?
Well, really what we need are, I guess, what I'd call workforce housing. We need houses for people that are making, $40 to, $120,000 a year in income. There aren't a lot of opportunities, and I think the biggest thing that they could do is overhaul Act 250. And I know it's been kind of a lightning rod, and we don't want all this development and this and that. And I think one of the great things about Vermont is it is clean and it's beautiful, and we haven't had a lot of overdevelopment. But if Act 250 were quicker and more predictable, I talk to business people all the time, especially builders, and they'll say, well, gosh, there's way more regulation in Massachusetts and restrictions and rules there, but it's faster and it's more predictable. And that's what we need. That's what we need here. You shouldn't be able to walk in, go through 6 hearings and then have somebody walk into the 6th hearing, 15 minutes before it's over and get party status. They really need to, you really need to have some sort of vested interest, I think, in the development to get party status. But yet, people that are just against development use that all the time to go in at the last minute. And, it becomes too prolonged and too expensive for people to develop, and they kind of give up. I mean, I went out this huge commercial convention out in Las Vegas, and a lot of them, and these were like national companies. They didn't even want to talk to me about Vermont. They were just like, forget it. It's too hard to do anything there. We don't, not interested.
Did you get a chance to hear the governor's inaugural address?
I did.
What did you think of that? I know there was some obvious prioritization for housing. What was your takeaway from that?
I thought it was great. I don't care which side of the aisle you're on or what you think or don't think about the governor, but he has the highest approval rating of any governor in the country.
Amen.
It's like at 82% or something. So, he's a moderate Republican. He's, fiscally conservative, socially moderate. I mean, that plays well everywhere.
Did Vermont have a housing crisis, and I'm using that word, pre-COVID?
Depends on how you define crisis. I would say yes. I mean, as long as I've been here since '95, we've been talking about the lack of housing.
Exactly. It's interesting that you mention workforce housing. We've heard Mr. Lozon say those words on these microphones before, too. Are you concerned about this housing crisis? Do you think that 5 years from now we're still going to be having a housing crisis in Vermont?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
5 years.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, I do. I mean, because it hasn't gone away. I mean, and the current administration has done a lot to ease the problem, but there's so much more that we need to do, and we need to do it at the local level. I'd love to see us do more here at the local level. I'd love to see incentives for people to buy, 1 to 4 family, single, homes to live in themselves here in Berry City would be awesome. So there's a lot of things we can do. I think it's so expensive to build infrastructure that if the city could build out some of these like streets that are like drawn out on maps but haven't been built. We have hundreds of lots here in Berry City that you can't get to, and no one's going to go in and put in the street and put in the sewer and the water,
right?
And then give everybody else along the way a free ride on their dime to do it. That's something that the government needs to needs to do to facilitate housing here in Barrie. And prices in Barrie have gone up significantly. Because we're so much cheaper than Chittenden County, that there's always a strong demand here from people that are willing to drive an hour.
BCK Real Estate, William Ravies, everyone knows John Biondolillo, our guest this morning on Aired Out, talking about, and one of our presenting sponsors exclusively for real estate is you guys, which we are so honored to have. Just a comment here from Alice Farrell saying, thank you for the Act 250 review. It affects absolutely everything, especially our schools. I got a chance to hear Marketplace the other night. And they were diving once again, head first, into real estate. And the snapshot is, of course, being Marketplace, is nationally. They were talking about, and they interviewed real estate agents from San Francisco and Lake Tahoe.
Just like our market.
But I mean, one of the consistencies between both of the agents that they interviewed was that the spread between the lowest offer on a property and the highest offer on a property is a very narrow margin, more narrow than they've ever seen it before in history. You seeing the same kind of things here?
Yeah, it's certainly narrow.
And are you surprised to hear that?
No, I mean, it's narrowed, but of course we did. We in Central Vermont we didn't really have like bidding wars like much at all. And then during COVID, we had lots of them, and there was a wide variation. Now, there are fewer buyers, so the spread is tighter.
You and Michelle and everyone over at William Ravies, a little bit of a roller coaster ride. Take us back to July, June. Let's go back to April, May, June, and then I think we shifted gears drastically in July? Is that when we dropped the clutch?
We were still selling stuff like crazy.
Yeah.
We still are. We just need more inventory.
Right. Take us back, though, to April, May, June. Inventory, tremendous. People were selling their homes. They were flipping them around lightning fast. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But, when rates moved up, that affected people's psyche, probably more so than it really did the economy.
Yes.
Like I said earlier, a lot of people, if they had a 3% mortgage, they're like, I'm not going to move now. I'm just going to keep my 3% mortgage, and, maybe I'll do an addition or whatever.
I know that you don't have a crystal ball, but what would you love to see if you could look into a crystal ball with regard to interest rates? I'm hearing, as you probably are, that we're looking at least another percentage point.
Yeah, I mean,
in the coming month or two.
I'm an economics major, and I've always followed the economy. I honestly, I think that a lot of the politicians are out of touch, both sides of the aisle, and raising interest rates in a situation like this is absolutely the wrong thing to do. It's causing inflation. It's knocking first-time buyers out. It's causing prices of goods, like building materials, which were already crazy, to be worse. So, but that's how we always did it. That's how we always controlled inflation, was we did it with interest rates. But that doesn't work so much anymore. And also, you think about it, the last certainly 15 years with the internet and 24/7 news, the old-fashioned, 15-year business cycles of 7.5 years up and 7.5 years down. That doesn't apply anymore.
Sure.
Things change in an instant.
Yeah.
Back when businesses had to forecast and they'd have to buy their inventory way ahead of time and store it up. I mean, the whole world's different right now. So using interest rates when they were already practically zero to control the economy, there's got to be other things to do. And of course, all the the COVID money that was out there, which the economy was in trouble, and sure, some of that was necessary, but there's so much of it out there that's inflationary too.
Right.
So it's it's a tough deal because we all want to have immediate relief to the problems, but sometimes we cause bigger long-term problems.
Sure.
Doing it that way.
Have you, John, ever even remotely thought about saying those words to Marcia again? Jeez, Marcia, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I mean, my God, look at what's going on. Let's buy an island and get the hell out of here. And have you ever, is that crawled around in the head at all?
No, not real. I mean, sometimes in the wintertime, I wish I had a warm place to go, but there's always challenges. I mean, there's always something going back, as far back as you want to go. There's always some challenge, some obstacle. Luckily we enjoy what we do, and we kind of like knocking them down, because if it was easy, anybody could do it.
Yeah. Conversation I've had with Michelle before, Michelle Hebert, one of your outstanding agents over there, who's just, my God, she's so good. I can't say enough great things about her, is the notion of winter or wait. It's wintertime. Nobody sells the house during the winter. God, what are you thinking? What do you? And I know that we've talked about this a little bit more, but we've heard people. You've heard plenty of people, many more than I have, bang that drum of, oh my God, don't even think about selling your house during the winter. Winter or wait. What say you? You
hear it all the time.
Yeah,
good, hear it in good
time.
Markets, bad markets. I hear it all the time, and again, it really comes down to the person's situation. But a typical scenario would be, well, what did it, I want to list my house and I want to wait till May. Okay, well, what is it about May that's important to you? Oh, well, everything's going to the grass is going to look better, and everything will be green. It'll be beautiful. The house will really look its best. And
I got to power wash it.
Yeah, and so will everybody else's house look its best. So, any market, especially right now, the highest sale prices, price per square foot, like going back as far as I can remember, have been the contracts that we've gotten in February, March, and early April. Because there's naturally less inventory to begin with.
Right.
Right now, there's like hardly any inventory. So now more than ever, being on the market in the winter, if you're ready to sell, is the time to do it.
And Michelle said to me, she's like, it's like people forget that they have photographs of their beautifully pristine cut landscaped lawn that's emerald green that we can show you what it looks like. What you see right now is not how it's going to be forever. You're not going to have that huge brown snowbank in front of your house.
And all this fresh snow today. I mean, it
Yes.
probably looks good. It does look good today, right?
It's winter wonderland,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But we have photographs.
I mean,
of these homes.
people are buying homes all the time. The only time I would say it really gets slow is between like Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Right.
So
People are busy.
If you're going to put your home on, I might say, well, let's wait till January 1st, or let's do it before Thanksgiving. But other than that, if you want to be on the market, you should be on the market, especially now.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's just still not enough homes on the market to keep up with buyer demand. So.
No, and that's why we need some incentives for people to build homes.
There you go.
I mean, it affects everything. I mean, it helps especially people that are renting, just by having less demand on the rental properties.
What do you think? millennials are thinking? What do you think is crawling around in the backs of their minds right now? Definitely got to rent. Renting the only way to go. Or, oh my God, definitely got to buy. Buying is the only way to go. What do you think is crawling around in there?
Boy, we were just getting them out of their parents' basement when COVID hit. So, they were starting to buy, and then COVID hit. And so I think millennials more than ever really value, I think everybody values their home more than they ever did. I mean, when I say value, I don't mean dollars. I mean in terms of how much they appreciate their home after COVID. But the millennials, many of whom are now working from home or want to work from home, that's important.
That's right.
To them.
Michelle said to me something I won't forget. She said basically, and I took notes chatting with her, the desire to own a home doesn't stop during the winter. How can you think that this coming May, June, that you're going to need a home or want a home any more than you do right now in January or February? The serious home buyers are looking and buying now.
That's right.
They want to stay ahead of the bottleneck.
Right. And honestly, anybody that wants to go look at a home when it's, snowy like it is today or cold, if they're pre-qualified, pre-approved,
that's it.
We're happy to take them out. You don't have people coming just, looking because it looks like a nice home. They might want to, enjoy going through it when the weather's like this.
Right.
It's serious buyers only.
Yeah. Right. And it also kind of lightens up any kind of restrictions on showing it. I mean, you kind of pick when it's really most convenient for you.
Yeah, I mean, we get a lot of sellers. They've got, young families or whatever, and there's certain nights or days when they've got activities going, and we won't show it on those days or those times. I mean, the seller's totally in control in terms of, when the showings can occur.
Here's a question I've asked Michelle. I'm curious to know if you're going to be consistent with her answer.
Hope so.
If you're gonna sell your home, you're getting ready to sell a home. Does it have to be photo ready in the sense where there's no pictures hanging on the walls? Everything is perfectly placed. There's the wooden fruit bowl on the table with the fake fruit in it. Does everything have to be perfect to show that home?
Well, if you watch the Home and Garden Network, you'd say, yes, it's got to be staged. And the answer is really that, there's some truth. You don't want to have
your dirty underwear.
You don't want to have, the house needs to look and show well. It needs to be clean, needs to be picked up. You do want to depersonalize a little bit, but you don't need to take down every family photo. But you do want people to look at the house. So It doesn't have to be, if you wait till the house is perfect, you'll never put it on the market.
Wait. Say that one more time, a little slower.
If you wait until the house is in perfect order and condition, you'll never put it on the market.
There you go.
I mean, if you have so many people that, it takes them it always takes them longer than they think. They want to do this, they want to do that. I mean, there's really the most important thing in selling a home is, okay, what's the curb appeal look like? When the agent's opening the lockbox, what's the buyer looking at? Is it a shabby welcome mat? Is the door peeling with paint or have fingerprints on it? That's the first impression.
Cat litter box.
Yeah, gosh, yeah. If we can smell it, we can't sell it. And then it's really the kitchen and the living room. If every bedroom's not in perfect, I won't take pictures of it. I don't care. People, you want them to come see the house. And that's one thing we've gotten away from as we've gotten, more bandwidth where there's 80 pictures in the MLS and there's video tours. It's like, people don't even feel like they need to come look at the house.
Sure.
In fact, when I take somebody through a house, we take someone through. I consider it a second showing.
Right.
There's so much information available online.
Yeah, that's true. You can really shop from home.
But you got to look at. I mean, during COVID, we had people buying stuff sight unseen, and the way the rules were, they changed. But at the time, they could only legally, they had to quarantine for 3 days, and they come to the state, they could do the walkthrough, and they could go to the closing. And I'm telling you, they go to the walkthrough, and they hadn't seen it. They'd only seen videos or FaceTime, and 9 times out of 10, they're like, they're disappointed. They're looking around like, oh,
Really?
Yeah, because you got to see it. You got to see it.
Yeah.
I always, even before COVID, if we had a situation where even like a husband and wife, and one spouse had seen it and they made an offer and the other hadn't seen it, bad news, because invariably somebody's not going to like it.
Right.
So they got to get in and see it.
It's amazing the number of people that were buying sight unseen and just running from the metropolis to make their way to the pine trees where the air is clean and fresh during COVID. My God.
And we had a lot of buyers from California, which never happened before. We might have one occasionally, but we had a lot of buyers from California.
And a lot of folks from down country that are moving up here and getting involved with politics and changing everything. You didn't take the bait on that one.
Don't want to irritate half my clientele.
You do such great things for the community. I got to get in there and chat with you some more.
Down the street. Come down anytime.
Man. Right next to
Subway. Yeah.
Just if you're looking at Subway.
Simply Subs. We're sandwiched in between, pun intended.
You are. You are. You have an amazing, for lack of a better term, storefront. The curb appeal is amazing on where you are. I love that the front of the building. If you don't know where I'm talking about, if you're walking on the south side of North Main Street, and you see the circle brick right there, you guys have like the ultimate, I think anyway, store sidewalk frontage. It's amazing.
No, it's great, and I love the parking we have in the back.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. Yes.
And that's a real advantage that Berry City has over a lot of places. Is we have a lot of parking.
Yeah. Let's throw some love and some kudos to your other staff members in there that are helping to drive the bus.
Well, we talked a lot about Michelle.
Yeah.
Certainly. Rich Ivey.
Yes.
Been with us a number of years. David Jameson, who was with us a number of years ago and actually came back, and we're thrilled to have him back. Dave is an absolute expert on large parcels of land and estates. I mean, he's forgotten more about land than most agents ever knew. Dave Jameson's he lives in Worcester, but he's in every day. He's working at it full time. Great guy. 7th generation Vermonter. He's owned a Christmas tree farm, and he's done maple sugaring. And when you talk about the Vermont lifestyle experience, he can tell you all about it.
That's right. And is that it?
Well, we've got me and Marcia, of course. We've got Kate Whalen.
Kate, that's what I was thinking of.
And Tammy Baldwin, who's been with us for years, who's so sunny and pleasant no matter what the weather is or what's on her desk or what's happening.
Yeah, right.
She really, she's just great.
And you guys have you've made some great strides with some video representation of what you're doing and your branding. You got the lights and cameras and stuff. It looks like you're set up for a podcast.
Yeah, we got a little
there.
studio set up over there for my surgery. It kind of got away from me, but yeah.
I want to get over and see some more of that.
Yeah, and Butch Churchill's in our office too. I think Butch is our longest long-term agent.
Local experts who are really dialed into what's happening right here in and around Washington County, but also privy to what's happening nationally and watching things very carefully. But you guys are you've got insight and experience locally that's second to none, and you guys hang your hat on that, and as you should. That's the place to go.
Thank you.
Stop in, even if you are unsure if this is the right time in your life or the right avenue that you should be taking. Stop in. Ask dumb questions.
There's no dumb questions.
There's no dumb questions.
That's a cliche, but there really aren't. And
right.
It doesn't cost anything to get educated.
Yeah. Come in, sit down, chat with you guys, and at the absolute least, you might leave saying, all right, worst case scenario, I need another 6 months to get my credit together, or at least I've got the tools of where to go, who to speak to, and I'm going to come back and revisit this in 6 months or a year. It might be better timing for me then.
Exactly. And in the
worst case scenario.
Meantime, we can set you up so you receive local housing data every month, so you know what's going on in the market.
Yeah, exactly. And we encourage people to get on your site and have a look at your Facebook page too, where you have listings posted up.
Mm-hmm.
Make 23 a year where at least we have a lot of stuff to prioritize, a lot of stuff to think about, a lot of stuff to worry about. But make 23 something where you're thinking more about where am I living right now? Where are my roots? Where do I think I want to be in 3 to 5 years from now? Is it in this apartment that I'm still living in? What other options do I have? What incentives are out there? Who do I speak with? It's William Ravi's. That's where people should go and chat. And we appreciate everything that you guys do so much. I'm coming over there, and we're going to go live. If you see me walk in with my phone in my hand, look out. And kudos to Michelle and the rest of the team over there. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
You going to get back in here soon? I want Colin to come in here if he's brave enough and sit down with us.
Well, yeah, I'm sure we could get him in here. So
he's kind of your marketing guy over there.
Yeah.
We're at Windham, Maine, I think,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
And I'm licensed in 3 states, so I certainly have a unique perspective on what's happening in New England for sure.
Thanks for being our presenting sponsor now. We always hope to have you guys, and we, again, not to sound like a broken record, but we do really genuinely appreciate everything that you do, not only for us, but for our community, as you always have, John. Thank you ever so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. And you've been a fixture in Central Vermont for years, so we're proud to be associated with you, JD.
Thank you, my man. Come back in soon, will you?
I will.
All right. Say hi to Michelle.